Hello and welcome to another English class here on Verbling.com. My name is Lisa and I'm one of the teachers here at Verbling. I'm one of the English teachers, and in this hour I'm going to be having, it's kind of a reading slash listening slash speaking class. We're going to do a couple of things in this hour. So if you have a reservation for this class, then of course you can use the reservation now. If you don't have a reservation, then you can just wait 2 minutes and then you will be able to join the class when you see the Join Class button. If you're a member of Verbling, you can always make a reservation for a class that you want sometime in the future. If you're not a member yet, you might want to join so that you can take classes anytime that you would like. The way you join classes is you just come to Verbling, and usually we have 1, 2, or 3 English classes going on at the same time, and you just choose which one you would like and then click on the Join Class button, and then you come in here to the Google Hangouts. We can have up to 9 people. If you're not a Verbling member, you can watch for free and you can write in the chat, but it's really great if you become a member because then you get to participate and you come in here with us. So hi guys, hi Araceli, how are you?
Hi Lisa, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm up early.
Yes, that's what I'm seeing you. Because yes, I'm taking early classes this
Yeah.
year, and you're of course for you is what time is it for you?
It's 7 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't, the way the schedule works here at Verbling is we kind of have a set schedule where we get filled in, but then sometimes people have to give up an hour for some reason, and so you can look at the schedule and then take that class if you want to take that hour. So for some reason this hour was available. So sometimes I like to take an early morning class because see different people, and I wake up early anyway, so I've been up already, so it's just I don't usually do a class this early because other people in other time zones are doing this hour. So
Well,
yeah.
it's good to get things done early in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's different. Sometimes I end up taking a class in the evening, and then the students are like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" So I like to see all the different students because some students can only take certain hours, so I never get to see them. So it's fun. So
Yes, different people, yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. And Rafa, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
Okay. Well, wonderful, guys. So let's see. Maybe we should wait just one more minute just to see who shows up. I don't know. This is a little bit different style class. We're going to do a couple of different things. We're going to watch a short video that's on this guy's website, and then we're going to read basically the website and learn about him and the book that he's written, read a little bit of the excerpts, and then talk about it. So have you guys gone to his page yet? Let me put it here on the screen share. So I just have been seeing this. It's pretty popular. People have here on Verbling, I think a lot of the teachers often share some TED Talks and things. So you guys are probably familiar with TED Talks. Is that true? Araceli, do you know TED Talks?
Yes, yes, I think
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I have listened with you to some of
Yeah.
them.
Uh-huh. Rafa, have you ever listened to some TED Talks?
Yeah, many times.
Okay,
It's very
great.
interesting.
Yeah.
Some lot of new things.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because not only do they have the original TED, which takes place in California once a year, but now around the world they have other they call them TEDx talks, and so people around the world in different places are having them. So there's lots of them on the internet now, lots of topics, different things. But this guy, he is he's born here in America, in the United States, and he was raised here, and he just wrote this book, and I've just been noticing it a lot, and I didn't really know what it was about, so when I was looking for something for the class, I found his website, and I listened to him, his TED Talk, and read a little bit about his book, and so I thought it would be interesting, something new and different that we could do. But anyways, the idea is that he has written a book, so we're going to watch this together. It's kind of short, less than 2 minutes. We're just going to, so that'll be something to listen to. Then we're going to talk about it a little bit, and then we're going to read a little bit about his book. So this is a book just out. Actually, it's on pre-order, so I don't think it's out quite yet. And of course, you know, in this day and age, this is a compelling and interesting story in the sense that, you know, he is the son of a person who is originally from Egypt but came to the United States to live, and he was accused of and also convicted of a couple of different terrorist acts, we could say, and now he's in jail. And, you know, his idea is that he was raised kind of in this way with his dad doing these different things and plotting and planning, and his whole idea is that he has chosen a different path. So instead of continuing on with this way of seeing the world and wanting to do the things that his dad was doing, he's chosen a different way to approach his life, and so he's talking about the idea that you do have a choice. You know, even when you're in a situation where you're kind of being trained to do one thing, you always have a choice to do another thing. So let me see the best way for us to watch this, because this isn't a YouTube one where I don't have to put it into the YouTube thing. Let me see if it works for me to play it and you guys can hear it. Let's see if that works well. You guys ready? Okay. Let me see how that works. Let me know right away if you don't hear it or it's not good, because then you can just watch it yourself. So let's try.
But it's not on YouTube, it's on Vimeo.
Yeah, it's Vimeo.
But does it work with an app or an application, or?
No, I think if I just play it, you'll be able to see it and hear it. But let me know right away if it doesn't work. So a son presumed to follow in his father's footsteps. Do you understand the word presumed?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So he was, you know, they thought he would follow. So to presume is to think this is going to happen a certain way. Okay, let's listen.
On November 5th, 1990, a man named Al-Sayed Nosser walked into a hotel in Manhattan and assassinated Rabbi Meir Kahane, the leader of the Jewish Defense League. While serving time, Nosser began planning attacks on a dozen New York City landmarks. Thankfully, those plans were foiled by an FBI informant. Sadly, the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center was not. Nosser would eventually be convicted for his involvement in the plot. Al-Sayed Nosser is my father. My father exposed me to a side of Islam that few people, including the majority of Muslims, get to see. By the time I turned 19, I had already moved 20 times in my life. Being bullied as a kid created a sense of empathy in me toward the suffering of others. One day I had a conversation with my mother about how my worldview was starting to change. She looked at me with the weary eyes of someone who'd experienced enough dogmatism to last a lifetime and said, "I'm tired of hating people. I choose to use my experience to fight back against terrorism, against bigotry. And with that simple fact, I stand here as proof that violence isn't inherent in one's religion or race, and the son does not have to follow the ways of his father. I am not my father."
Okay. So I guess it is available already, September 9th. Okay, so let's see. How was that? What did you guys understand from that little video there about him and who he is and what he's going to be telling us about in his book? Araceli, you want to go first?
Yes, I wasn't able to understand everything,
Okay.
but yeah, I think he's describing what his father did and in which strikes he was involved,
Mm-hmm.
and then how was his childhood. I think he said he had to move about 22 times or like something like that.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Right.
also he was bullied at school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I suppose I don't know, but maybe because of his religion or
Yeah, probably,
race,
maybe.
whatever.
Yeah, depending on where he lived throughout the United States, it could be maybe for being Islamic, or something, yeah.
Well, we don't
Egyptian.
know if he moved so many times.
Yeah.
Just the fact of being new in every school, it can be so. But what surprised me is that
Mhm.
if he's being bullied at school,
Yeah.
that doesn't make him more violent.
Mhm.
Instead, he says that makes him more what's the
Empathetic.
word?
Empathetic.
Empathetic, okay.
Yeah, empathetic. Or to
So it's
have
just,
more empathy. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's, good- it's a good choice. So it's
Mhm.
a choice what he says. And then he was talking about his mother, and I didn't understand very much that part. I don't know if she was like his father, but he makes it clear that to be a terrorist isn't anything genetically determined, that you have your choice no matter
Uh-huh.
what your parents are or how you were raised. You
Yeah.
always can choose.
Right. Right. That's great. And that's the word that I wrote here in the little phrase he said, it's not inherent in. So a lot of times, a lot of people do say things like, well, you're going to be just like your parents or especially a son and a father, for example. And of course, especially if you're kind of being raised to be that way, obviously we know not everybody turns out to be like their parents. In fact, some people, they do choose the opposite way of being or, being in the world. They make different choices, but it can be difficult, So let me just say hi, Alibek. We just watched this video, and we're talking about it. So if you want to, you could go ahead and watch this video very quickly. It's less than 2 minutes long, and then you would know what we're talking about. You can do that on your computer while I'm going to talk to Rafa for a minute.
Okay, hello teacher. Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so yeah, we'll go watch that and then come back. So Rafa, did you have anything to add, maybe? Oh, good, more people coming. To what Araceli said about the video that we just watched? Anything you noticed or thought when you watched it?
Yeah, the most important thing, my opinion, is at the end of the video when he said, "I'm not my father." I think this is the story about this guy that tried to be different, to his father. His father was a terrorist. The suffering that he has been having in the last decades from the 11th September in New York. I think he's doing a pretty well-known job
Yeah.
showing to the wall the other side of the coin, because many times we try to put in the same sack all the Muslim, and he is saying he's against the violence. He's trying to develop his initiative to be different to another religions that many religions have inside of them, the violence against the others. This is another point.
Yeah, good. Yeah, did you guys understand what his dad actually did? There were two different things that he talked about, but I wanted to make sure. We're going to read again, so in the reading it says again, but I just wanted to make sure you guys knew. So basically his father was accused of and convicted. So convicted is the main word there, because you can be accused of doing things and then maybe it turns out that you're not guilty. You didn't do it, somebody else did, things like this. But he did get convicted, which means they found him guilty, and then now he's in jail. But he did two different things, and one was he did kill somebody. He killed a rabbi. So a rabbi, do you guys know what a rabbi is?
No.
No? Okay, so a rabbi is, for the Jewish religion, it's like a priest. So in the Catholic religion, you have priests. In a Christian Protestant religion, you have ministers or pastors. They're the ones who give the ceremonies, the service, and a rabbi gives the service for the Jewish, the Jewish synagogue. So yeah, he killed a rabbi. So a Jewish, kind of an influential, I think he was kind of an important Jewish guy here in the United States. And then he actually was not involved with September 11th. I think it was a different one, the attack on the World Trade Center. I thought it was a different one because there's been a couple of different attacks, so we'll see. But anyways, Alibek, did you get a chance to watch that? And Ahmed?
No, actually no, but I just can understand when.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, so basically to move on, we'll move on to some reading here. The basic idea is this is a man who's a son who, his father has been in jail because he was involved in some, criminal activity, but not just criminal, they call it terrorist act. And, he was raised with, the main thing I also liked what he said and wanted to make sure we pointed out to, I thought it was important, was he was being exposed to a certain type or a certain world view of within Islam. So, of course that's the religion that he was being raised in, but it was this more extreme version of it. And he said it's not the Islam that most people are raised in. So I think I have been reading more and more about Muslims coming out and saying, this is not, we're not all extremists. We don't all support, these actions and this kind of thing. This is not what our religion is about. There are other things that we do. And so not even all Muslims, even learn this worldview or this way of looking at the religion and using it for other reasons. So, he was pretty clear about that. So, all right, so let's just move on. We're going to read. The reading class, we're just going to, I usually put it in a document, but I just think we can read from this page. So it's big enough. I think everybody can see it. So we're going to read about the book. We're going to read some excerpts from it, and then we're going to read a little bit more about him. So we're going to use this page, and I'm going to have each person read, and then I'm going to go over some vocabulary and stuff, and then we'll have some more time to talk about it, your responses to it, and what you think about this guy and this story. Okay, so I'll read first. About the terrorist's son, a story of choice. So Zach Ibrahim was only 7 years old when, on November 5th, 1990, his father, El Sayed Nasser, shot and killed the leader of the Jewish Defense League. While in prison, Nasser helped plan the bombing of the World Trade Center in 1993. In one of his infamous video messages, Osama bin Laden urged the world to remember El Sayed Nasser. Okay. Rafa, why don't you read for us? And hi, Hamid.
Hi, Lisa.
So we're just
From the
starting.
beginning?
Yeah, right there. That's good.
And I watched the video.
Okay, great. So you're up to speed with us.
About the terrorist song, A Story of Choice. Zach Ibrahim was only 7 years old when, on November 5, 1990, his father, El Sayed Nasser, shot and killed the leader of the Jewish Defense League. While in prison, Nasser helped plan the bombing of the World Trade Center in 1993. In one of his infamous video messages, Osama bin Laden urged the world to remember El Said Nasser.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's see. I don't know if you, I think everybody probably understands all of those words there. So basically, you know, he did this in 1990, and then he helped plan the bombing of the World Trade Center in 1993. And Osama bin Laden, I think everybody knows, he urged the world. So maybe that's the only word. Infamous just means famous, but in a negative kind of way. You become famous because you did something that wasn't good. So an infamous video message is like he became, you know, this message was heard by a lot of people, but it was infamous, obviously, because it was Osama bin Laden doing it, not some, you know, wonderful I don't know, Nobel Peace Prize winner or something like that. Okay, so he urged the world. So when you urge somebody to do something, you're wanting people to do something. And so you're kind of not really begging them, but it's kind of like, come on, we need you to do this kind of thing. So he was urging the world to remember El Said Nasser. For Ibrahim, a childhood amid terrorism was all he knew. After his father's incarceration, his family moved more than 20 times, haunted by and persecuted for the crimes of his father. Though his radicalized father and uncles modeled fanatical beliefs, the hateful ideas never resonated with the shy, awkward boy. The older he grew, the more fully Ibrahim grasped the horrific depths of his father's acts. The more he understood, the more he resolved to dedicate his life to promoting peace. Okay, Hamid.
For Ibrahim, a childhood amid terrorism was all he knew. After his father's incarceration, his family moved more than 20 times, haunted by and persecuted for the crimes of his father. Though his radicalized father and uncles modeled fanatical beliefs, the hateful ideas never resonated with the shy, awkward boy. The older he grew, the more fully Ibrahim grasped the horrific depths of his father's acts. The more he understood, the more he resolved to dedicate his life to promoting peace.
All right. So this word here, amid, it means like in the middle of. So his childhood, he spent the way we say this, for Abraham, a childhood amid terrorism was all he knew. So you could also change the word order and just say, you know, all he knew as a child was terrorism. You know, so amid it means he was growing up within this environment, amid or in the middle of this, you know, group of people who were talking about terrorism, you know, doing these different things, their beliefs about why it was good that they were doing these things, that kind of thing. So if you're ever amid or amongst, it just means you're kind of in the milieu, we could say, or in the middle of, just surrounded by. So incarceration. Hamid, you know what incarceration is?
No.
Okay, good. Incarceration is when you're put into jail. So you are incarcerate means to put somebody in prison or in jail. So after his father was put in jail, or incarcerated, and in this case this is the noun form. So his father's incarceration, so being put in jail. After his father was put there in jail, that's when they moved 20 times. So in the video we heard him say that, and like you mentioned, Araceli, he experienced a lot of bullying, which you mentioned maybe could have made him even more upset and choose a violent path, you know, to get back at people, to have revenge on them or something. But instead, it helped him have more empathy. So it's kind of like the opposite. He was being bullied, and it was helping him to be more empathetic towards others. So he was haunted by and persecuted for the crimes. Haunted by. Araceli, do you know what that means? If he was haunted by and persecuted for something?
Yes, well, I think haunted it means in this context that it was like, I don't know, like, yeah, you understand what? Yes, haunted, for example, for a house, like it has ghosts. But here,
right, like ghosts, yeah.
yeah, here I think it means like people don't forget what happened, so that is going to like something negative about you.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. You can imagine, like, your dad's in jail, you know, like, people might keep reminding you or asking you, where's your dad, who's your dad, you know, like, so to be haunted by it is like, yeah, haunted houses have ghosts, and you get haunted by, but it's like the haunted by the memory of something or by the story. It just keeps coming back to you over and over, and of course it's not a good thing. It's, of course, if you're having a good memory, you wouldn't be haunted by it, but you would be enjoying it, you know. So haunted is mean something keeps coming back, but it's not an enjoyable or pleasant thing. Also, he was being persecuted for the crimes of his father. So you can imagine, you know, if somebody finds out that your father was the one who, you know, killed this person, or, you know, had an attack on the World Trade Center, that, you know, people might not like you. They might, you know, think that they can persecute you, or persecute is like to go after you, to maybe not necessarily torture you, but to just do some kind of harm to you for a crime, you know. So they're persecuting him or punishing him for something his father had done. Though his father, his was radicalized. So though his radicalized father, so that's used as an adjective there to describe what his father was like and what his uncles were like. Do you guys understand the word radicalized? Alabek or Hamid?
Like a rigid strict?
Rigid, yeah, that's kind of it. So usually you have like maybe you have a belief system, you know, and then when somebody goes radical, you know, they are radicalized. They're going towards, yeah, extremist, Arthur. That's a good word for it too. So instead of kind of going with the mainstream, the way somebody believes or talks about something, you take a point of view that is really different. So, you know, radical, it means, you know, significantly different. So they were radicalized. And when you talk about politics, in religion, if somebody is a radical, it means like they're very rigid, like you said, Hamid. They're very much only believing that what they think is the truth, and they don't believe any of the other points of view. So that when you talk, you know, if you're listening to the news in English or reading it, you will hear these words, you know, that radical Islamists have bombed, blah, 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 something like that, you know. And so they're just saying, like, yeah, the extremists or the people who have some very rigid thinking and ideas and believe that they're the right ones, they're the true whatever, you know. So, yeah. And similar with fanatical, you know, so his dad and his uncles were modeling for him, so showing, you know, him basically these fanatical beliefs. So not the normal everyday beliefs of, you know, Islam, but a certain group of people who have these beliefs that are, when fanatical means, again, similar kind of thing, like you're just crazy about it. You know, you don't want to listen to anybody else. It's what you do all the time. Like if you're a fanatical sports fan, you know, you're a fanatic about sports, like soccer, let's say, you just live and breathe soccer. You love it. You know, you just want to be watching soccer, reading about soccer, talking about soccer, and so you're kind of a fanatic about it. And so that's what that means right there. So they had some fanatical beliefs and hateful ideas. But these never resonated with this boy here, this shy, awkward boy. So, Alabek, what does it mean to resonate with something or somebody? Do you know that word?
The hateful ideas never resonated with the shy. Maybe resonate, it means that to be able to do that, or maybe to use it, resonate. It means that that ideas were according to something, and to come alive with the shy.
Yeah, so basically it's kind of like that. A little bit more specifically, it means if something resonates with you, it means you agree with it. It sounds good to you. So he was here living with his father and his uncles and, some other people in his family maybe, and they had these hateful ideas, like they were right and these other people were wrong, and they were going to do something about it. But they were kind of based in hateful ideas. So not acceptance of differences of people, but really hating certain people for certain reasons based on their, ideas and their beliefs. But this never resonated with him. So it never really felt right to him. It never really sounded good. So if you resonate with somebody, it means like you agree with them, you really are on the same page. But if you don't resonate with somebody, then you disagree with them. It's not the right thing for you. So his father's ideas were not what he agreed with. He was a shy boy. Awkward means, maybe he wasn't the coolest kid on the block kind of thing. Maybe he had some things that he was not sure about, so people would describe him as awkward. But he didn't like his father's ideas. They did not resonate with him. They didn't feel right to him. Okay, so then as he grew older, he was able to more fully grasp. So the more fully Abraham grasped the horrific depths of his father's acts. So Ahmed, we lost Ahmed. Do you guys understand the word grasp? What does it mean that he grasped the horrific depths of his father's acts? Anybody? Araceli?
I don't know. I don't remember the words. To hold?
Yeah, to grasp. Yeah. So literally speaking, yeah, when you grab something with your hands, you're grasping it, you're holding on to it. But in this sense, it's more like he understood. So as he grew older, when you're 7, I don't know, my dad did something, he's in jail, I don't really understand it. But as you get older, and you're growing up, you start to understand more clearly what exactly happened and what it meant. So he grasped the horrific depths. So horrific, of course, means how terrible it was, and the depths, how deep it was, like exactly what happened. So, it's one thing to hear like, well, your dad shot this, but what did it mean, shot this person? What did it mean? So the depths means like the meaning. So he was finally able to understand what exactly his father had done and what it kind of meant. And so the more he understood, or the more he grasped, the more he resolved, the more he decided in his mind. To resolve means you make a decision in your mind. And so he made a decision to dedicate his life to promoting peace. So he's like, okay, that's what my dad did. I am not doing that. I'm doing the opposite. So he made a decision to spend his life promoting peace. To dedicate your life to something means that's what your main goal in your life is. You're going to be working towards that. Okay, so in this book, Abraham traces his remarkable journey to escape his father's terrible legacy, crisscrossing the eastern United States from Pittsburgh to Memphis, from a mosque in Jersey City to the Busch Gardens theme park in Tampa. The Terrorist's Son is the story of a boy inculcated in dogma and hate, a boy presumed to follow in his father's footsteps, and the man who chose a different path. Okay, Alabek?
Can you reduce the page a little bit?
Yeah. Oh, are you on an iPad or something? Here.
Yes.
Okay. Oh. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. You want to read that?
Okay. In this book, Abraham traces his remarkable journey to escape his father's terrible legacy, crisscrossing the eastern United States from Pittsburgh to Memphis, from a mosque in Jersey City to the Busch Gardens theme park in Tampa. The Terrorist's Son is the story of a boy inculcated dogma and hate, a boy presumed to follow in his father's footsteps, and the man who chose a different path.
Good. Okay. So He traces his remarkable journey. So when you trace something, it means you go step by step. You know, usually tracing means like you take a pencil on a paper and you trace like the outline of something. You're going over it. But when you're talking about telling a story, you're tracing your steps or tracing the incidents or the events that happened. So in his book, he's telling us about his remarkable. So if something is remarkable, it's kind of astonishing or amazing or, you know, even significant, sometimes unbelievable. But it's this, you know, it's a special journey. It's not some boring story that doesn't have any action or anything significant. But it's a remarkable journey to escape his father's terrible legacy. So a legacy, of course, is like what people know you for. So his father, unfortunately, is known for these horrible crimes, and so he's trying to escape that. You know, he doesn't want to be seen as the same person as his father. Crisscrossing. So it just means when you go from here to there and then back over to here, you're crossing where you just were. So crisscrossing across the eastern part of the United States. So from Pittsburgh, these are different places, different cities. A mosque. A mosque is where Muslims go for church, like. And let's see, for services. A theme park in Tampa, Florida. So he's going, you know, he's just telling us the story. But here, inculcated in dogma and hate. So this, he was raised in. So if you're inculcated into something, it means that's how you're being taught, how you're being raised, how you're being educated. And so as a boy, he was growing up in this kind of culture of his father and his uncles about dogma, which is like being very strict with your beliefs about something, and of course hate, you know, hating these people from these other religions or these other belief systems and things. And so of course he was presumed, so people thought he would follow in his father's footsteps. That just means to do the same thing as your father. But instead, we know now that he chose a different path. All right, so let's read a little bit about his what he says in his book. I've spent my life trying to understand what drew my father to terrorism and struggled with the knowledge that I have his blood in my veins. By telling my story, my intention is to do something hopeful and instructive, to offer a portrait of a young man who was raised in the fires of fanaticism and embraced nonviolence instead. I can't make any grand claims for myself, but all our lives have themes, and the theme of mine so far is this: everyone has a choice. Even if you're trained to hate, you can choose tolerance. You can choose empathy. Okay, Hamid?
I have spent my life trying to understand what drew my father to terrorism and struggled with the knowledge that I have his blood in my veins. By telling my story, my intention is to do something hopeful and instructive, to offer a portrait of a young man who was raised in the fires of fanaticism and embraced nonviolence instead. I can't make any grand claims for myself, but all our lives have themes and the themes, and the theme of the mine so far is this: everyone has a choice. Even if you have trained to hate, you can choose tolerance. You can choose empathy.
Okay, good. So he spent his life trying to understand what drew his father to terrorism. What does that mean, Hamid? Do you understand that? What drew somebody to do something? What does it mean?
My father's directions about me.
No, not exactly. So what if I say, what drew you to chemistry? What am I asking you?
What is the pushing thing?
Yeah, what is the interest? What is your interest? Yeah. But what pulls you? Why? So he was trying to understand why his father was attracted to terrorism. Why did he choose this path? Why was he drawn to it?
Intention?
Yeah, but I want to make sure you guys understand the specific structure here. What drew my father to? So to be drawn to something means what are you attracted to? Why are you interested in it? So it's specifically that structure that I want to make sure you guys understand. So yeah, his father, his intention later was to, do these terrorist acts. But why? Why was he interested in that? What drew his father to doing that stuff, So when I ask you, Hamid, what drew you to chemistry, I'm asking you, what attracted you? Why do you like chemistry? What is it about chemistry that made you want to study it and learn and, do work in it, that kind of stuff? So to be drawn to something or, to be drawn to something. Does that make sense? Right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so he wanted to understand why his father, was attracted to this. Some people, we don't know why. Some people like rock music. Some people like jazz. Why? Some people believe in violence. Some people believe in peace. Why? What draws us to these different ways of being and these different thinking patterns and things like this? So he struggled with the knowledge, knowing that his blood was in his veins. So he's related to this person who is, doing this thing that I don't really like. So in my veins, all right, so by telling my story, my intention, so what I want to do is something helpful and instructive. So instructive means you're educating somebody. So he wants to offer a portrait, so kind of like a vision of a different type of man, who's raised in the fires of fanaticism. So what does that mean there, Araceli? Do you understand? He was raised in the fires of fanaticism.
Yes, it means that it's like a metaphor and fires of fanatism, but it means the atmosphere in which he was raised was very extreme, very fanatic.
Very heated, maybe you can imagine, yeah, exactly. So he was being raised, growing up in this group of people who were very, we can say, on fire about their beliefs. So if you're on fire about something, it's like you're really excited about it, you're kind of crazy about it, and you're really involved. So that's kind of the environment he was being raised in. But he embraced nonviolence instead. So Alabek, do you understand the word embraced, how it's used here? He embraced nonviolence instead.
Embraced, maybe that he was surrounding with nonviolence.
No, not exactly. He was surrounded by the fanaticism and the hate, but instead of choosing that, he chose. So embraced means to choose. Yeah, or adopted. We could put some other words there. He was who was raised in the fires of fanaticism and chose nonviolence instead, or adopted nonviolence. So to embrace somebody means to hug them, usually. But in this case, it's what you do. It's what you choose to do, the actions that you choose to take. So he embraced nonviolence instead of the terrorism that his dad had embraced, All right, so let's see. Themes. He's talking about we all have themes for our life. A theme is like when you read a book, it's the main theme of a book could be the story that it's telling. So kind of we're all exploring different themes in our lives. So his father could be exploring the theme of terrorism and radical religious beliefs and things, but his are more about choice. So he's exploring this theme in his life about, I'm going to make a choice. Even if you are trained to hate, so even if that's what you're being educated by your teachers or by your parents or your relatives, your friends, if they're trying to educate you or train you to hate people, you can choose tolerance and empathy. So you can choose to accept that people have difference. Tolerance is when you accept that people are different, and that's okay. It's okay for people to have different beliefs than you. Okay, the fact that my father went to prison for an unfathomable crime when I was 7 just about ruined my life. But it also, whoops, that's a typo there. But it also made my life possible. So you don't need to say my. Made my life possible. He could not fill me with hate from jail. And more than that, he could not stop me from coming into contact with the sorts of people he demonized and discovering that they were human beings, people I could care about and who could care about me. Bigotry cannot survive experience. My body rejected it. Okay, Araceli?
The fact that my father went to prison for an unfathomable crime when I was 7 just about ruined my life. But it also made me my life possible.
Yeah, there's a typo there, so it should just be, but it also made my life possible. Yeah.
He could not fill me with hate from jail. And more than that, he could not stop me from coming in contact with the sorts of people he demonized and discovering that they were human beings, people I could care about and who could care about me. Bigotry cannot survive experience. My body rejected it.
Good. Okay, so a couple of things here. If something is unfathomable, it's like you can't even really believe it. So it's an unbelievable thing. So it was hard for him to really understand or believe what his father had done, the crime that he had done when he was just, a little boy. He says it just about ruined my life. So to ruin your life, it makes it terrible. It's like you don't have a good life. But it also made his life possible because now he was able to make this choice. And so, of course, he wrote a book, he did a TED Talk, so this had a big impact on his life and kind of set a path. He could not fill me with hate. So what do you think that means, Araceli? He could not fill me with hate from jail when he's talking about his father.
I'm not very sure of what he means here because, yes, I suppose fill me with hate means to make me hate, fill my heart with hate. Yeah. But from jail means like he was a prisoner, he was in jail.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know what it means, that his son should think that as they put his father into prison, he should hate that society or something like that.
No, I think it's kind of a. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we also say the satisfaction feel?
Satisfaction where?
To not be a satisfaction. To have a satisfaction.
Yeah, he could not have the satisfaction of training me. So I think it's really literal here, actually. So just think about it in your mind. His father is in jail, so that means he doesn't see him. Maybe he sees him now and then, but not. Remember, he moved 20 different times. So his father's in jail, and he doesn't see him anymore. And so because they don't have contact with each other, his father could not fill him with hate. That means he couldn't keep talking to him, telling him all these things, why he should, hate these other people, whether it's Jewish people or Christian people or Americans or whatever. So he could not influence me anymore because he's actually in jail. So that was kind of a good thing for his son. He went to jail. So now he's not, talking to him all the time and raising him with those beliefs. Yeah, because he was absent, exactly. So he wasn't actually in his presence anymore. So, of course, also, he could not stop me from coming in contact with the sorts of people, so the different types of people. So perhaps had his father been out of jail, he would have kept his son only in groups of people that he agreed with. But instead, because his father was in jail and not able to be, an influence on him, this guy was able to come into contact, which means to meet other people. The people actually that his father had demonized. That to demonize somebody means to make them the demon, the devil, to tell people he's really bad. So maybe, in growing up before he went to jail, his father would say, those people are terrible. These people are the bad people. They do these things, And so instead, he didn't have that, and he was meeting them, and he on his own discovered they were just human beings. They were people that could care about him, that he could care about. So bigotry, the hatred, hatred could not survive his own experience of meeting these people who maybe were different from him, but he didn't hate them like his father did. So his body rejected this this idea of hatred against these people. When you reject something, you say no to it. So his body was like, no, that's not true. So he says, I'm 18 now, and all the teenage rites of passage, this is in his book, I'm 18 now, and all the teenage rites of passage line up before me. I go to parties for the first time. I buy a car, the quintessential symbol of freedom. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible car, an old Ford Taurus with stickers and decals that won't come off. Still, I worship it so much that I lie in bed at night thinking about it like it's my girlfriend or something. Truthfully, my bad boy experiments are all timid and short-lived. My real rebellion is that I'm starting to question everything my father stands for. I'm taking every fundamentalist lie I was ever told about people, about nations and wars and religions, and holding them up to the light. I'm convinced that empathy is more powerful than hate, and that our lives should be dedicated to making it go viral. Okay, Alabek, can you read that part there? Yeah.
I'm 18 now, and all the teenage rites of passage line up before me. I go to parties for the first time. I buy a car, the quintessential symbol of freedom. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible car, an old Ford Taurus with stickers and decals that won't come off. Still, I worship it so much that I lie in bed at night thinking about it, like it's my girlfriend or something. Truthfully, my bad boy experiments are all timed and short-lived. My real rebellion is that I'm starting to question everything my father stands for. I'm taking every fundamental. Sorry, can you scroll up, please?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm taking every fundamentalist lie I was ever told about people, about nations and wars and religions, and holding them up to the light. I'm convinced that empathy is more powerful than hate, and that our lives should be dedicated to making it go viral.
Viral. Good. Okay, so let me just go. Rites of passage, that's just, we don't really have those so much formally, but in older times, people, especially boys, would go through a certain ceremony or something when they would be going from being a young boy to a man. So here in the United States, one of a rite of passage is, you're going to parties, you're buying a car, maybe you get a job, you have a girlfriend, certain things that happen in your life that kind of make you a man. You're growing up and you're changing from a child into an adult. So the quintessential symbol of freedom, so having a car is like the perfect symbol of being able to be free to go anywhere you want. Of course, it's a terrible car. It has stickers and decals. So stickers, these are like bumper stickers, things you put on your car. Decals, the same thing, just things that are stuck onto his car that they won't come off. But he lies in bed at night and worships it. What does it mean, Hamid, that he worships his car? You know?
I think the car is like, I'm not sure, but like his God.
Yeah, when you worship something, you just love it. You're just like, this is amazing. Like you think about your car and you're just like, I love my car. So some guys, when they get their first car, even if it's not a beautiful car, they still love it. They take care of it. They clean it. They think about it. Yeah.
Sometimes husbands say to their wives, my car is more valuable than you.
Yeah, sometimes guys worship their cars more than their women. Yeah, you could say. Yeah, you can worship lots of things, but yeah, usually it's a word you use in a religious sense when you worship God or. But in this case, it's worshiping your car. So he's like just putting it as a high value in his life. He really loves his car. So
For example, Indian people worship to the cow.
To the what?
To the cow.
The cow?
I wrote.
Oh, cow. In India. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, the cow. Okay. Let's see. And then he says his bad boy experiments. You know, maybe he tried on being a bad boy, you know, like a little rebel or something. But he was very timid, shy, and they were short-lived. So he never really became a rebellious teenager. But his real rebellion, the way that he was really going against, so when you rebel, you're going against something. His real rebellion was when he started to question. So everything that his father stood for, or that stands for is the present tense, stood for. So Araceli, what do you think he means when he questioned everything his father stood for or stands for? He's still alive. His father's just in jail right now.
Mm-hmm. That he questions means that he questions himself if that is true, or he doubts about the ideas his father had.
Right, exactly. So he, for himself, has to figure out, you know, my father, when you stand for something, that means what you believe. So his father has certain beliefs about other religious people, maybe about the United States, government, that kind of thing. So he stands for these fundamentalist beliefs, but his son has to start questioning those things. So to see, do I really agree with my father, or do I have a different understanding about this? So, you know, he had to start questioning everything that he had ever been told about nations, like, you know, different countries and wars, why these wars were happening, and religions. So he had to hold them up to the light. You know, when you hold something up to the light, you look at it very carefully and you can see better. And so he was convinced that empathy is more powerful than hate. So to be convinced means you really believe it. You know, I'm convinced. This is what I really believe. And he says he wants to make empathy go viral. Alabek, do you know what he means? Nowadays, this is a new term that we use with computer age. Something goes viral. You know what it means?
It's like a virus. It's some like a bacterial or something.
Yeah, it's that's where it kind of comes from. And so what happens with a virus is people can catch it. So in our computer speak, we say if something goes viral, it becomes very popular. It becomes very famous. So like a video on YouTube, if we say, oh, that video went viral, it means millions of people watched it. So what he wants is the idea that empathy is more powerful than hate. He thinks that should go viral, that idea that people can be more empathetic than violent. So going viral. So it just means he wants everybody to understand that and it become a very popular thing. So instead of, here he is, this guy. This just is his little bio. So it's, you know, he was born here in the United States. His father was Egyptian. His mom's American, teacher. And so it wasn't the bombing of September 11. It was 1993. So that's a previous bombing. It didn't tear down the whole World Trade Center like the 9/11 did. So it wasn't that one. It was a different one. So instead of reading that, I just want to ask you guys, what do you think about this guy and this book? Do you think he has a good message? Has it been hard? You know, would it be hard to go against your father? Hamid, what do you think about this guy's story?
I think we don't have the bias or prejudices for the people, and we should give the chances for the people, because sometimes people turn from bad to good, or otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. True, for sure. You never know how somebody's going to turn out. Araceli, what do you think? Do you think it was a good thing his dad was in jail?
No, it can never be a good thing. But yes, maybe he made it good in some sense. But I think it's curious it's interesting what he's talking about here. And I think it's an important thing how your education can have an influence on your ideas, and it's a very extreme case of education, and so it means it's like human beings always have the choice. You can think that you are genetically determined. For example, if your father is very violent,
Yeah.
maybe you think you have many chances to become violent too, and you can be concerned about that. And also you can think that education and the way you are raised can have an influence. But in this case, it's like showing the human being is really free because
Yeah.
both things were taking him to violence or to terrorism, but he chose a different path. Yeah.
Yeah. Alabek, what do you think about his story? You think it was a hard decision for him, or not?
Well, I think that's a very, very great story that show us about some different kind of minding people who, or even if you even grown up amid the terrorism, radicalism, or some fundamentalist ideology, even that you can be different. You can rise up against that meaning, and you can change your life. I think it showed us that all our lives in our hands. We
Oh,
can.
good. Yeah. Yeah. Our lives are in our hands. That's right. Yeah. Okay. I think you guys got the main ideas here, and so maybe I'll get this book sometime. Or maybe we can read some more excerpts sometimes. Pretty interesting. This is definitely not a typical story. Usually your father, even if your father does kind of makes bad choices, he doesn't usually do these kind of things. So his story is pretty unique, and he chose a different path. So a lot of different themes there that are interesting, but I like this theme of, you're your own person, and you can definitely make choices that take you in the direction you want to go in your life. You don't have to follow in your father's footsteps or, do something just because you're related to somebody. Yeah. Okay, guys, thanks for coming to class. It's fun having you.
Okay,
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.